Well, as I said, I wasn't really planning on a class this morning, but I did, in my devotional readings the other day, I came across this one, and it was pretty interesting to me when I started reading it. I don't know if I agree totally with it, but I thought I would present it in a class and get everybody's ideas on it, because that's how we learn, is to see what the Scripture says and then try to get the most that we can out of it. In Matthew 22:14, it says, "Many are called, but few are chosen." What does that mean? Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. Some say as many are invited, but few are chosen. Talking about the parable of the wedding banquet, wasn't it? And I think we covered that one on a Wednesday night.
If you're not following Christ too well, you're kind of out of it.
Right. What was the parable of the wedding feast? It was an invitation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, everybody was called,
Everybody.
and few would respond.
Right. Everybody was called, but few responded. Now, what is that as compared to, we take this parable, and what does that mean to us in this world? How many have the opportunity to follow Christ, to follow the gospel? How many in this world are going to have that opportunity? Everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone will have an opportunity, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but what does it say?
But few are
But few are chosen. Okay, now that would be something like we could say, well, did God choose me? Did God choose Hubie? Did He choose Gene? But when we read this parable, what does it say? They were invited, but what? What did they do? What did they come up with? An excuse. They came up with an excuse. They paid no attention. Went off, one to his field, another to his business. They came up with everything possible to say, no, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in going. How many people in the world are going to come up with excuses? When it says few are chosen. Now what was God's plan?
to get everybody into heaven.
That everyone would be saved, right?
Everyone would repent and come back to Him.
That's what He wanted, right? That everyone would. But we know that not everyone is going to make it, don't we? When Noah was told to build the ark, and there was, from what I understand, millions of people on the earth, and there was lots of wickedness going on, and he said, I want you to build an ark. And how many people entered that ark? And I'm not talking about animals now, I'm talking about people. How many people entered that ark?
8.
8. Noah and his wife, his 3 sons and their wives. Now there was millions of people on the earth. Only 8 were chosen. Why?
Because they done what God said.
They did what God said. Now, Noah, what if he was given the plans for this ark? What if he decided, you know what, I don't want to use gopher wood. It's so hard to work. I think pine would be much better. It's lightweight, easy to work. What if he had changed? Hubie.
As the scripture in Revelation chapter 17 verse 14 might help a little bit. They shall war against the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For He is Lord of lords and King of kings. they also shall overcome and all be with him, called and chosen and faithful.
Faithful. Faithful followers. Yep. Called, chosen, and faithful.
Chosen because they're faithful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the definition of chosen is faithful.
Right. Because God called on Noah, didn't he? Why did he call on Noah? Because he was faithful. He knew that he would obey him. He would lay out, okay, this is what I want you to do, and he would obey him. He would do it exactly as he said. Is that applied today to people today in the world? Well,
In a way, Noah listened to God. He
Absolutely.
listened to God so much, so God guided him in a good way. Because, hey, if we don't do what God says, we're done.
well, and that's the reason, excuse me, that's the reason that we need to be always looking to God for what he wants us to be doing.
Jim,
Yes.
I was gonna add to that too. God already knew that the world wasn't gonna work out, because God knows everything. So when he had all those people die, in my mind, it was just to slow sin down, because God already knew what's gonna happen. You know, so if the world kept sinning the way that it was,
Mhm.
the destruction, or however it might have worked, you know, so God just taking those 8 people, and of course it's all biblical knowledge and stuff like that, but by doing that, that did slow sin down. I
Yeah.
mean, it had to have.
Well, yes, it wiped it off the face of the earth for a little
Yeah.
bit.
It's intriguing that the Bible is essentially bookended with 2 of those judgment scenes.
Mhm.
There was, at the end of a time
Right,
that God had ordained, there was in the beginning this flood.
right.
The faithful were redeemed from it.
Right. And in the end,
rest, and sin itself was removed from the earth.
right.
You go all the way to the other end of the Bible,
Mhm.
coming to the end of a time that God has appointed.
Yep.
Really the same picture.
Right.
But somehow he's slowing down sin
Mhm.
in a way, but it's up to us to stop it.
Well, that's, in our lives, yes, we need to be aware of what sin is going on.
We gotta slow it down too.
One of the things that I want to point out, and also, if you'll be turning over to Isaiah 6. Do you remember the commercial that they used to have when cell phones were coming out? The guy walking around says, "Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?" How does that apply to us today? When God is talking to us, do we hear him?
Somehow we don't.
Do we truly hear him when he's talking to us? When he's trying to show us? Now in Noah listened, didn't he? Because he done things the way God wanted him to do. Are we in the same boat?
Yeah, we should be.
Or is God saying, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?" Isaiah 6. And I'm a little slow getting there. Okay, let's see here. No, I guess it would help if I was in 6 and not 7. Verse 6, "Then one of the seraphs flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, 'See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned.' Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? So this is Isaiah basically, and this coal has been taken from the altar and touched his lips. And what did that do? It purged him from sin, didn't it? And then what was the next thing that was said? Then I heard the voice of the Lord. Now this wasn't the first time that God had been talking to him, was it? It says, then I heard the voice of the Lord. God's been trying to get through to him. But yet it took what? Purging of his sins before it finally dawned on him, oh, now I hear you. Now it's getting through, Paul.
It is very much that picture, do you hear me now? In the prophecy of Jeremiah 8 times, it says, again and again I sent the prophets, and again they revealed my word. And implied again and again, you chose not to listen.
Right. And how common is that today? How common is that today when you see the people in the world that you try to show them what this word says? And they come up as the wedding feast. They come up with every excuse. You know, I mean, if you look at the wedding feast there, what happened to some of the servants that went out? They killed them. I think of how many people today that are hearing the gospel, the true gospel. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's being preached out there that is not the truth. But when they hear the truth being preached, how are they reacting? Now remember, we are the messengers. But God is saying, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? He's saying this to the world. I don't know what the figures are, but from what I understand, practically every household has a Bible. Whether they read it or not, I don't know. But practically every household has a Bible somewhere, maybe on the dusty bookshelf that's never been looked at. But when we have this message before us, what are we doing with it? We as Christians have been given a job, haven't we? In Matthew 28, it tells us what we are to do. What is the world to do with that message? When we present it to them, what are they to do with it? They need to accept it, don't they? They need to understand it and take it into their heart, apply it, and live faithfully.
Another point there, it shows the plurality of God. Who will go for us?
For us. Mm-hmm. There is so much, you know, and this was just a simple devotional that I had, and I was reading that and I was thinking, man, there is so much that we still don't know about God and His will and His plan for everyone on this earth. I mean, I am just a speck of dust in His whole plan. But you know what? He still knows me. He still knows me. You know.
Well, the reality of it is He's given us the complete plan.
Complete.
Everything to know who God is and what He's about, it's all here.
Yep.
It's on us to search it and find it.
Right.
And the more you search, the more you're going to understand and see who God is.
Right.
And you'll never, ever be done.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, every time you read, you're gonna see something new.
Right.
And these things are revealed as we're able to understand it. Because as you grow, you
Right.
see it more clearly, and more clearly, and more clearly. And
Exactly.
that is the beauty of a living word.
And I think that's what God does with us when He's saying, can you hear me now? I'm speaking to you. This is what I would like you to do. And this happens in our daily lives. This is not something that just miraculously happens on Sunday, that we open the book, oh wow, this should happen every day. He should be speaking to us every day through His Word. There's a prerequisite to that. You got to be in the Word. How is He going to speak to you if you're not in the Word? Because this is how He's going to talk to you and say, can you hear me now? This is what I want you to do. And as Dina said, when He speaks to us, we gain knowledge. We gain wisdom from His Word of what to do. How to handle the situations that come across us every day in our lives. I can't imagine where I would be if I hadn't have obeyed the gospel. If I would have went on with my thinking that I'm good enough. I mean, I'm not a murderer. I'm not a thief. I'm not a bad person. I have good morals. And I have accepted Him in my heart, and that's good enough, isn't it? That's all I knew. And I felt good about it. Until God said, do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? Look at my Word. Do you hear me? Now I could say, nope, don't hear you. Nope, I'm good enough. I don't need to hear you. How many people in the world are doing that? They're saying, I don't need to listen to you. Don't need to listen to you at all. I'm enjoying life. I feel safe. I feel secure. And you know what? I'll call on you when times get really rough, but I really don't need to call on you anytime other than that. That's what the world does. They justify themselves. Lau, did you have something?
In a way, I'm going to look at it in a negative and in a positive way. Jesus called them all to the supper, right? And called them all to Him. But Satan really called them a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really hard to really explain how that is, but the spiritual is actually, the demons are busy, and both sides are busy,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Both sides are.
And it's amazing how much.
The thing that I have to understand is the fact that Satan already has the world, doesn't he?
Right.
He already has the world. He don't have to work real hard
No,
because he already has them.
right.
But what he has to really work on is the saved. The ones that have their hope in heaven. The ones that put all their trust in Jesus. The ones that glorify God all the time. That's the ones he wants.
And even the ones that they're gone are going to come to God. He's really working
Exactly.
on them.
Exactly. But Satan is going around, as we've said, like a roaring lion seeking to devour. To devour. And he would like nothing better than to get his hooks in one of us and drag us down so that we are no different than the world. God has called us out from the world, hasn't he? So that we are not looking like the world. And I think too many times it's awful easy to kind of slide in and say, well, I'm not too much different. But we should be completely different, shouldn't we? Tony?
I kind of wanted to add to what Dina said, you know, the more, and thank God for Church of Christ, because I never learned the Bible like I'm learning it now in the last 15 years or whatever, since I've really been saved. And it's crazy because how much do you listen to somebody just sit up there and talk, you know, say for you, for instance, and I never opened my Bible, I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm not really learning because I'm not really putting enough effort into learning it. And so with what Dina was saying, with the way the world is, the more that you read the Bible, the smaller I become. And I realize, man, God is like huge. The more you start reading and understanding God's plan and everything that's going on in this world, and you can start seeing how the darkness is out there. And, you know, I mean, we can pray for these people and stuff like that for the truth, but everything is changing so fast because of how they're educating our children that, are you sure you're a male or female? You know, I mean, there's, and it's not education, it's lies, you know. So there's so much stuff that we can see as Christians, just even pray about. You know, maybe not go out and, you know, do whatever, but just more information to pray about what's really going on.
And that's, you brought up a good point. A lot of these things that they're introducing to us today, whether you are male or female,
Yeah.
whether some of this stuff is really important, what does it tell us in the Bible? If they would go to the Bible and read it from cover to cover and try to digest it, it tells us exactly how we were created. Male and female. There is no question. It's obvious. But you can't take and twist your mind and say, no, I'm not. No, I'm female. No, I'm not. I was born male. That was God's plan. We don't change God's plan. But yet too many people do not use this because they don't want to listen to it. They don't want to listen to what God has to say. Because we want to be our own God. Bottom line. Everyone wants to be their own God. They want to be in control of their life. They want to do what they want to do. And they don't want anybody telling them what to do.
That's the thing right there. They do not want anybody to tell them what to do. They do not want to submit to a higher power.
Exactly.
They want to, I want to do just what I feel like doing. I want to think what I want to think, and you're not the boss of me.
No, they want to be their higher power. They do. They want to have control of everything. How much can we truly control in our life?
No.
I mean, how many times have we dabbled in that, saying, I've got control of this, I'm going to do this my way. How many times have we done that and we have fell on our face?
Oh, yeah.
And we think, why? I mean, I had it all planned out. I had it perfectly planned out, and it should have happened this way, and it didn't. God laughs at those that plan.
Yeah.
Because He's the one that's got the plans. And we have to follow. It sounds like Gary might have touched something there with Gary on planning.
What is it, Gary?
Oh, yeah. But I've been there. I have had it all planned out. This is the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
And God says different.
We have all did it.
And what do you do then? What do you do then? Do you listen when He says, can you hear me now? I mean, I am never going to forget that commercial. Because at that time I thought, what a stupid commercial, you know? I mean, of course that would, when cell phones were just starting now, but how much does that apply to this lesson that God has for us? Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
And it's not me. I'm just the messenger here, Mike, okay? But it's God is speaking to us. He's speaking to us all the time. And as Dina said, we have to be open to that. We have to open this book. We have to be in it for Him to speak to us.
I was reading something, and It was very interesting, and it was in a situation in a college class. And the professor said that because evil was there, and you know it was there, then that meant that God was evil. And because God created everything. And so one student bravely stood up and said, does cold exist? And well, yeah, you can be cold. And what his point was, cold in and of itself is the absence
Absence of heat.
And then it said, does darkness exist? Well, that's the absence of light. So where God is evil is the absence of God. And that person that made that comment to this professor happened to be Albert Einstein. And I just thought it was so interesting what a little bit of light, only a tiny little bit, that it takes to disperse darkness.
Right.
And so if you think about your life and your choices and how you present yourself out in the world, out in that darkness, if we would all just remember that we're just a little point of light, that we shine and God shines through us as we walk along in the path of light, how that pierces that darkness, and Satan hates it. He wants to keep people in the dark. And I don't understand sometimes why people want to stay there, because darkness is scary. And if you think about things being out of control, you can't see what's out there. And whenever you're going along and you're not paying attention, something happened to us when we were in Denver. We were driving along, and in the shade, someone had stolen the manhole cover. We didn't see it because it was in the shade. And we lost 2 tires because of it. And I got to thinking about that's what happens if we're going along and we don't have our eyes open, or we're in the dark. We don't see those things, those traps.
We don't see the dangers.
And the holes that we can fall into.
And doesn't he tell us that we're not to have a bushel basket over our light? That we should shine? And it's exactly what you say. We may not think we're making an effect. We're not making a difference. You know, there's just so much darkness. What's my little speck of light going to do? But as it says in 1 John, if we walk in the light as he is in the light, okay, then that's putting me and him together. And that's a lot of light. It's not just a little speck anymore. As you said, he's shining through us, and we are way more bright. And that's what we need to be in this world. We need to be that bright light. And not think, well, I'm not going to make a difference, so why should I even try? I think God's telling us, can you hear me now? Mary Lou.
In John, in chapter 12, and 34, it's 34 in a couple verses. It says that when the crowd spoke up, they have heard the law that Messiah will remain forever. So how can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? And then they asked, who is this Son of Man? And Jesus told them, you are going to have the light just a little longer. Walk while you have the light, before darkness overtakes you. And whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going. So right here, he's referring to himself as a light. And then it also says, believe in the light, so that you may become children of light.
Wow.
Sometimes I had a little deal that happened. This is when I was coming up to my turnoff. And okay, I go like from one of the lanes here, then I go over underneath where my turnoff is. The light there and the way the sun was. I came up to this one person that works with cement or a mechanic shop. There was a little kid there. I couldn't see.
Yep.
at all. But I had to move a little tiny bit, and there he was.
Yep.
And I went, wow, I couldn't see this kid.
Right.
Because the way the sun was, and I thought I had it all the way,
Oh, yeah.
but I could have hit that little kid,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
just like that. And I couldn't, I didn't see him until about a little inch.
Right.
I seen the kid there.
So we need to
Satan is
be,
actually working both ways.
right.
In a way that you, and then all of a sudden I went and apologized to this little kid. And I said, I couldn't see you even if I
Right.
moved a little bit. And he stopped, but I couldn't see him.
You were blinded.
Yeah,
You couldn't see.
because of the light.
And that's,
And
I don't want to say blinded by the light, but you were blinded because
yeah,
you couldn't see the whole picture.
right,
Even when we are enlightened
yeah.
and know, we can still be blinded
And even
by
if-
something that we think is
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
but yet it's not. We're out of time this morning. I don't know how that class went so fast, but
But it did.
I didn't think I talked that slow, really.
But it,
But
yeah, there was.
But think about that. When he's talking to us, are we listening?
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important that we listen
Yeah.
to what God has to say for us. Thank you for all your participation.